eagles are coming!
Why didn't they just fly the ring to Mordor? The simple answer, they'd be spotted, hunted, and killed within hours. Well, that's that. Thank you for spending just some of your time with me today, and I will see you next time on The Broken Sword. Okay, no, yeah, there is more to it than that, so let's dive a little bit deeper. After all, the Eagles aren't Uber, they're sacred beings, not Middle-earth's Air Force. And flying the ring straight to Mount Doom, that really would have played right into Sauron's hands. Here is the truth behind the Great Eagle myth, and why Tolkien never meant them to save the day.
Build me an army worthy of Mordor.
To answer the eagle question, we first need to understand what the Great Eagles actually were. Not how they're remembered in memes, but how Tolkien himself described them. They weren't oversized falcons or passive creatures waiting for orders. The Great Eagles were beings of immense power and status, sent or shaped by Manwë, Lord of the Valar and Master of the Air. In the Silmarillion, they're described as spirits in the shape of hawks and eagles, who were sent by Manwë to keep watch over Middle-earth, particularly over the actions of Morgoth in the First Age. The greatest of these was Thorondor, who aided the elves but answered to no one except Manwë. By the Third Age, the Eagles remained powerful but distant. Gwaihir the Wind Lord, who rescues Gandalf from Orthanc and later from the peak of Zirag-Zagil, is said in The Return of the King to be one of the noblest and swiftest of his kind, but never a servant of men. The Eagles acted according to their own will, and on rare occasions at the prompting of higher powers like the Valar or possibly Eru Ilúvatar himself. Tolkien emphasizes this in letter 210, writing, "The Eagles are a dangerous machine. I have used them sparingly, and that is the absolute limit of their credibility or usefulness." In other words, they were not a tool to be deployed like cavalry. They were sentient, independent, and divine, far from the reach of tactical planning, and using them to secretly invade the heart of Sauron's stronghold would have contradicted everything Tolkien built into their identity. Now suppose the Eagles had agreed to carry the ring to Mount Doom. What would they face? The biggest threat wasn't an arrow or a fell beast, it was Sauron's awareness. In The Two Towers, Book 4, Chapter 9, Sam notes that the Eye, that horrible growing sense of a hostile will, was searching for them. Tolkien describes the Eye as constantly sweeping the land, seeking any threat. An approaching eagle formation would have been visible for miles and impossible to hide. The ring itself would have drawn attention the closer it came to Mordor, making stealth basically impossible. And also, by this point in the Third Age, the Nazgûl were airborne, riding terrifying winged beasts. These foul creatures are described in The Return of the King, Book 5, Chapter 4, as neither bird nor bat, but monstrous and swift. The Nazgûl were relentless, able to sense the ring's presence, and utterly loyal to Sauron. They patrolled Mordor and its borders constantly. Even if the Eagles moved quickly, they couldn't outfly a force with supernatural awareness and no need for rest. But beyond these, beyond Sauron's perception and the Nazgûl, Mordor had multiple layers of defense. Again, in The Return of the King, this time Book 6, Chapter 2, Frodo and Sam pass through a land described as all girdled with fortresses. Watchtowers like Cirith Ungol, Durthang, and the Dark Tower itself maintained ceaseless vigilance. Giant eagles, visible in the sky for miles. Well, this would have just triggered alarms long before reaching Mount Doom. And then, the ring itself was that final threat. Even if Frodo had arrived, there's no guarantees he would have destroyed the ring. Tolkien makes this clear in letter 246, that Frodo could not have cast it away by simple will. At Mount Doom, he does succumb to the ring, and it's only Gollum's intervention that completes the quest. A quicker route would actually not have avoided this. In fact, it may have hastened Frodo's downfall, with fewer trials to build resistance, and no chance for Gollum's redemption arc. So no, flying the ring to Mordor wouldn't have solved the problem. It would have triggered Sauron's response, doomed the quest, and handed the ring straight back to its master. So, there is another question that rises, and that's, if the eagles couldn't be used to carry the ring to Mordor, then why do they show up at the end to rescue Frodo and Sam? This wasn't a last-minute fix or lazy solution. It was a deliberate example of what Tolkien called a eucatastrophe, a sudden redemptive event that rewards courage and endurance. In The Return of the King, Book 6, Chapter 4, after the ring is destroyed, Frodo and Sam lie helpless on the slopes of Mount Doom. And only then do the eagles come, not to save the quest, but to save the ones who completed it. Tolkien emphasizes this in Letter 156, where he explains the eagles are not meant to be a routine solution. He calls them a plot device, used only for final rescue, never for strategic transport. In the same letter, he makes it clear that the quest had to be completed without direct divine help. The eagles appear after the ring is gone, when Sauron is defeated and the Valar's servants no longer need to hold back. This is consistent with the broader themes across the Silmarillion and the Lord of the Rings. That true victory comes through humility, suffering, and sacrifice, not through shortcuts or overwhelming power. The eagles are not a cheat code, they're a final act of mercy, and the fact that they only come after the mission is complete is what makes their arrival so meaningful. So, there we have it. The next time someone asks, why didn't they just fly to Mordor? You'll know the truth. They couldn't. Not because it wasn't possible, but because it would have ruined everything that the quest stood for. The eagles weren't there to cheat the journey. They were there to honor the sacrifice. And that is what makes their arrival matter. And now it is your turn. Do you think the eagles should have played a bigger role in the War of the Ring, or was Tolkien right to hold them back? Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this in the comment section down below. And along with this, if you would like to support the channel in other ways, please consider our Patreon. You can't always rely on YouTube itself, so this extra support will really help the channel stay strong and keep us getting that content out for you. But with that, thank you for spending just some of your time with me today, and I will see you next time on The Broken Sword.
The eagles are coming.